Sure. Here's the 500-word script for Section 1. The setup. Written to be direct, high quality, and to the point, without repeating other sections or unnecessary fluff. My husband's friends came over that night like they did often, 3 of them, filling our living room with their easy laughter and low voices. I was there, playing the perfect hostess, pouring drinks, and trying to seem interested in their stories. But inside, I was restless. My husband sat on the couch, half watching the game, half distracted by his phone, barely noticing me. It wasn't like him to ignore the people in his home, especially me. The way his friends looked at me wasn't innocent. I caught Liam's eyes, quiet, intense. When he smiled, it wasn't just friendliness. It made me uneasy and excited at the same time. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was imagining things. But the way he lingered a little too long when I handed him a glass, or the way one of the others kept cracking jokes just to get me to laugh, it all felt different from the usual nights. My husband barely spoke, focused on the screen. It was like I was invisible to him, and yet, somehow, the others saw me. I noticed the way their eyes flicked to me when they thought I wasn't looking. I felt exposed and oddly alive. It made me wonder if maybe I wanted that attention, even though I knew it wasn't right. I looked down at my hands, trying to steady the tremble I didn't want to admit. It was a mix of loneliness and desire I hadn't felt in a long time. Sitting there, pretending everything was normal, I felt a quiet storm inside me, something dangerous, something that whispered promises of things I wasn't supposed to want. The room was warm and dimly lit. Their voices blended with the background hum of the TV and the clink of glasses. I laughed at their jokes, but my laughter felt hollow. I caught my husband glancing my way briefly, but then he turned back, uninterested. I wondered if he even noticed how the atmosphere had shifted around me. When Liam's hand brushed mine accidentally, I froze for a second. It was a small touch, barely there, but it sent a shock through me. I pulled away quickly, but the feeling lingered. I told myself to stop reading into it, but my heart beat faster, betraying me. I caught my reflection in the window, her eyes wide, her lips pressed tight. Who was she? The woman who stayed with her husband, or the one craving something more, something forbidden? The friends' voices kept filling the room, but all I could hear was the pounding in my ears. The night stretched on, but I felt like I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't quite name. I wanted to leave, to escape the tension simmering just beneath polite smiles and casual talk. But I stayed, because maybe deep down I didn't want to leave at all. As the hours passed, I realized that the night wasn't going to be ordinary. My husband's friends had come to watch the game, but I felt like I was watching something else, a dangerous game of desire and restraint. And I wasn't sure who would lose first. I should have gone upstairs to bed when my husband did, but I didn't. Instead, I stayed, caught in the quiet storm swirling around me, waiting for something I couldn't yet understand. Something I already feared but couldn't resist. Would you like me to continue with Section 2 next? Absolutely. Here's your 500-word script for Section 2, the invitation. Sharp, focused, no repetition, straight to the point. The moment my husband fell asleep on the couch, the mood in the room shifted. The easy laughter faded, replaced by a quiet tension that settled like a fog. One of his friends, with a smirk I hadn't noticed before, pulled out his phone and said something about an old video, the kind they joked about but never actually watched. "Let's watch it," he said, half joking, half serious. I hesitated. My heart hammered in my chest. Was this a joke? Or something more? The room was silent except for the soft hum of the TV, now muted. The friends exchanged glances, waiting for me to say no. But instead, I found myself nodding, a mix of curiosity and something darker pulling me in. As the video started, I didn't look at the screen. Instead, I watched them, my husband's friends. Their faces lit by the flickering light, eyes shifting between the screen and me. I felt their attention like a weight pressing down, and it made my skin tingle. The line between playful and serious blurred. Liam sat closer than before, his hand brushing mine as he reached for a glass. I didn't pull away. Instead, I let the contact linger. The others noticed but said nothing. They were watching me as much as the screen. My thoughts raced. Was I betraying my husband right here, right now? Was this just harmless fun, or was I stepping into something I couldn't undo? The answer didn't come. All I knew was that the thrill coursing through me was undeniable. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breathing. The screen glowed softly, but the real fire was inside me. The room seemed smaller, the air thicker. Every glance, every smile felt loaded with meaning I couldn't ignore. I caught Liam's eyes again, and this time they held a question, a challenge. It was silent but clear. Do you want this too? My mind screamed to say no, but my body betrayed me with a slow nod. The others shifted uncomfortably, but didn't interrupt. It was like we all knew something had changed. The video faded into background noise as my thoughts spiraled. What would happen next? Was I ready to cross that line? I glanced toward my husband, still asleep, unaware. It made the risk feel sharper, the stakes higher. But part of me didn't care. I wanted to see how far this would go, how much I could give in to this forbidden feeling. A subtle smile curved Liam's lips. He leaned closer, voice low and almost a whisper. You don't have to pretend you're not curious. His words wrapped around me like smoke, intoxicating, dangerous. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The room held its breath as the unspoken invitation hung in the air. I wanted to say yes, but the guilt clawed at my insides. Still, the pull was stronger than my hesitation. My fingers brushed his hand, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. The video, the friends, my husband, they all faded away, leaving just the two of us caught in the same dangerous moment. I told myself this was just a slip, a moment of weakness. But deep down, I knew it was the start of something else, something I wasn't sure I could stop. The night stretched ahead, full of unspoken promises and shadows that moved closer. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, and all I could do was wait and see if I would fall. Ready for Section 3? Of course. Here's your 500-word script for Section 3, the act. Precise, intense, and emotionally charged without repetition. The house was quiet except for the soft sound of my own breathing. My husband was asleep upstairs, unaware of what was about to happen below. Liam was still there, the weight of his presence heavy in the room. Two of the other friends had already left, but Liam stayed behind, his eyes locked on mine with a steady intensity that made my pulse quicken. He moved closer, without hesitation. I didn't pull away. Instead, I let the space between us disappear. There was no need for words. Everything was clear in the way he looked at me, the silent invitation, the promise of something forbidden. My heart screamed at me to stop, to walk away, to turn my back and run upstairs to where my husband lay dreaming. But my body betrayed that fear. It leaned in, reaching out without thought or reason. I felt his hands on me, gentle at first, testing boundaries I didn't want to set. The warmth of his touch ignited something inside me, a spark that I had been starving for. The air thickened around us, charged with a mix of guilt and desire that tangled in my chest. My mind raced through a storm of emotions, shame, excitement, fear, and something darker, a craving I couldn't name. I was crossing a line I'd promised myself I never would, yet I couldn't stop. I wanted this as much as I feared it. The world narrowed to the two of us, the brush of skin, the rush of breath, the quickening heartbeat. I was acutely aware of my wedding ring, heavy on my finger, a symbol now shadowed by the choices I was making. It sat like a silent witness to my betrayal. Liam's hands traced a path I knew too well, stirring memories I thought were buried beneath years of routine and comfort. But this wasn't about the past. It was about the electric present, a moment suspended in time where everything else ceased to exist. I closed my eyes briefly, trying to push away the guilt that threatened to consume me. But it was no use. It was tangled with the thrill of the secret, the danger of the forbidden, and the intoxicating feeling of being wanted so completely. When our lips finally met, it was soft and hesitant at first. But the hesitation quickly melted away, replaced by a fierce hunger that took over every part of me. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional, a desperate grasp for something I hadn't allowed myself to admit I needed. The room around us blurred. The only sound was the beating of my heart, loud and uneven. I could still hear my husband's steady breathing from upstairs, a reminder of the life I was risking with every stolen moment. We moved together in silence, a private chaos filled with stolen touches and whispered apologies. Neither of us spoke aloud. There was no joy, only a complicated mix of pleasure and regret that left me dizzy and unsure. When it ended, Liam pulled away without a word. He dressed quietly and slipped out the door, leaving me alone with the weight of what had happened pressing down on me. I sat there in the darkness, stunned and numb. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I only felt the cold sting of reality, how fragile trust could be, how easily it could shatter in the space of a moment. I thought about my husband upstairs, the man who loved me without knowing how far I had fallen. I wondered if I could ever look at him the same way again. The night swallowed me whole, and I was left with a single thought: nothing would ever be the same. Would you like me to write Section 4 next? Here's your 500-word script for Section 4, The Aftermath. Clear, focused, and emotionally impactful without repetition. Morning came, but nothing felt different on the surface. I moved through the motions, making coffee, preparing breakfast, smiling when my husband kissed my cheek. He didn't know. No one did. Not yet. But inside me, a storm raged, a constant battle between guilt and the secret thrill that lingered like smoke in the air. I checked my phone and saw a message from Liam. No one needs to know. Unless you want them to. The words hit me harder than I expected. A reminder that what happened wasn't over, that the choice to keep it hidden was mine. The silence between those words was heavier than any confession. Every time his friends came over after that night, the atmosphere changed. There was an unspoken tension, a current beneath their casual greetings. Their glances lingered on me longer now, loaded with something I wasn't sure I wanted to acknowledge. I tried to avoid their eyes, but it was impossible. The knowledge hung between us like a secret we shared and pretended to forget. I started noticing the smallest things, the way Liam's smile held a secret, how the others shifted uncomfortably when I entered the room. I dressed differently, careful to catch their attention or avoid it, depending on the day. It was exhausting, carrying the weight of this hidden truth while pretending everything was normal. My husband remained oblivious, wrapped up in his routine, unaware of the fractures growing beneath the surface of our life. Sometimes, I caught myself studying him, wondering how easily I could betray someone who trusted me so completely. The guilt gnawed at me, but so did a strange, unspoken longing. I didn't know if I wanted to confess, or if I was afraid of what would happen if I did. Would he leave me? Would the friendship between him and his friends shatter? Or worse, would he already know, and I just hadn't realized it? The thought haunted me more than I cared to admit. There were moments when I felt watched, not just by Liam or the others, but by my own conscience. The secret had taken on a life of its own, growing heavier with every passing day. Sometimes, late at night, I found myself replaying the moment over and over, the way Liam's touch felt, the rush of adrenaline, the silence afterward. It was a wound and a comfort at the same time, a reminder of how far I'd fallen and how far I could still fall. I wondered if this was just the beginning, if the thrill I felt was a spark that would ignite something bigger, something I wasn't ready to face. Every visit from his friends became a test, a silent question hanging in the air. Who would be the next to cross the line? And would I let them? I caught myself wanting to answer yes, even as I screamed no inside. The contradiction tore me apart, and I didn't know how long I could keep pretending. Pretending that nothing had changed, pretending that I was still the wife my husband married. One afternoon, Liam's message came again, colder this time. You know the truth now. What will you do? I stared at the screen, the weight of those words crushing me. The answer was unclear. The path forward was shrouded in shadows. I was trapped between what I had done and what I still might do. And so, every time they visit, I wonder not if I'll be found out, but which one will ask me first. Let me know if you want me to help with anything else.